What is going on, guys? Today we are looking at a brand new defenders tier list. So we'll be going through all of the defenders, left back, right back, centre backs. Let's get straight into it. And today we're going to start with Nuno Mendes. He is the brand new, or at least was brand new from last week, rode to the final 86, and most definitely a very good left back. It's a little bit of a salty one, the fact that we did obviously get the, I think it's the Foot Academy. We got a left back from Ligue 1, which does require us doing 100 Foot Academy SBCs, which yes, you are getting value as well, but it's one of them that personally, I feel like they've done it on purpose. But Nuno Mendes, in terms of a left back, very nice, good pace, defending physical, could do with some work, has a chance to be upgraded as well. I think looking at him straight away here, I would probably go straight away with the AS personally. He definitely has the ability to go up more, but I do require another upgrade. With how many left backs we've got, I need one more from him. Next up is Alphonso Davies with his Team of the Year Honourable. We've finally got this one in. I know last time he was in the tier list, but as the stories, so we have got the left back now. Again, very good left back. Pace is obviously the main focus for this guy. 80 defending, 82 physical. It's a very standard looking left back feel. I feel like if I'm going to put him at an S, we've got to put Nuno Mendes. So for both of them personally, we're going to go in that little bit of an AS for him. Then we have Ligt, 89 rated centre back. Pretty standard. Decent pace on him. The defending physical is quite nice. And as you'll see throughout this, we've got a lot of centre backs like it. There is so many. 80 plus pace, 88 plus defending, 88 plus physical. It will all come down to in-game, how he is on the ball with passing, with dribbling, composure. But I think Ligt is coming in as a standard nice one in the Bundesliga, one of the better ones. So I think as well, we're gonna stick with the AS vibe with him. I think with the chance of upgrades as well is always a nice factor for him. We then move on to Ben White, the 87, I want to say World Cup, Road to World Cup, I want to say this card. There was so many during that time that I was unsure. I think, again, standard centre-back, coming in a little bit underneath the meta curve now, 87 rated. We've got the 80 pace still and great defending, but I do think in terms of what we're looking at from defenders now, just coming slight underneath it. I'm going to go with the A at the moment for him. I feel like that is kind of where he's going to sit at. Wan-Bissaka, a very, very long time ago, we got this Road to the Knockout 87, still in the Europa, so it'd be interesting to see if they went from the final to this card. It could be a 90 rated card by the end, but in terms of this 87, good pace, defending physical, especially for when he came out, is still very relevant. And in terms of right backs, I feel like we've had a very good start with right backs, and same with left backs as well. We've kind of got a standard, and some definitely stick out. In terms of the pace, the dribbling, yes, we have got better, but I do think he's at a very good level, especially for when he came out. I'm personally going to rank him in that AS to start with, and we'll see at the other right backs. We then have Kyle Walker, incredible right back. This guy is just awesome. Obviously his gold card starts the game off really nicely, and any upgrade on from there is just absolutely impeccable for him. He's an easy S card that we're going to go with here. Then we have got 88 Varane. Unreal. Again, standard. With Varane personally, he's very much kind of like a gold Virgil. He's just very, very good in game. Even his 84 is still solid. You can definitely get a bit out of him. If your starting team is there, Gold Varane will still do a good job against a lot of players. The 88, a little bit more expensive. Obviously being a premium, being a +4, but he still is 100% in the S category for me. We then have Vanderson, an SBC that had obviously multiple picks. Personally, I feel like the attacking option was a little bit better than the right back itself. Obviously, this is the defending option, and I believe both can play right back. This one obviously starts there, and the mid-right wing card can actually go right back, or at least right wing back at a minimum. Very standard, good pace, defending physical is not bad at all. I do think in terms of just naturally the dribbling, the passing isn't necessarily up to the scratch with the right backs we will show you. I definitely would prefer Kyle Walker. Wan-Bissaka, I'm kind of half and half. I'd probably prefer Wan-Bissaka in general, but I do think he's coming in more into that A sort of category. Are you tired of using players like this? I would much rather have teams more like this. then I recommend going over to skycoach.gg for all of your coaching and coins needs. They are cheap, fast and reliable, but at the checkout make sure you are using code JT11 for a discount on your orders. Back to the video. We then have Van Dijk. Honestly, I thought I got rid of this one because obviously we do have the team of the year, which actually is going to be next as well. So we'll just go straight onto him. We'll kind of just like slot him in that AS. But in general, the team of the year, any version of Virgil is incredible. He's great as his gold. It's a beautiful, efficient gold card that you can get if you don't have many coins. Obviously, the stories, I would probably try and go for more coins if you could compared to getting the team of the year rather than the stories. I feel like the upgrade is a lot better, obviously, but it is obviously a massive price difference as well. But 96 Van Dijk is a monster. One of the best centre-backs in the game. I'd definitely put him in my top 2, top 3 at this point. I think, personally, Prime Maldini will always cover it for me, but Lucio is definitely making the argument, and if we did get another upgrade for Lucio, it's going to be absolute filth. But we know full well, Virgil is always going into that S. On to another standard centre-back, 87 Upamecano. 84 pace, 86 defending, 87 physical. Like I say, we will see a lot of these defenders coming through, especially a lot of the new ones. They tend to be very, very similar, and we have got a lot of French defenders as well. Incredible amounts of potential from a lot of them. Upamecano, it's got to be a standard. He's sitting there nicely, and we're going to go with the AS for him. We then have the new SBC, which is a FUT Fantasy Umtiti. In terms of centre-back, again, as you can see, French centre-back, 80 plus pace, 88 on the defender physical, but with the chance of an upgrade is always going to be quite nice. I don't personally know if he does play for Ligt as a starter, but most definitely there could be a win there and potentially clean sheets also. So there is a double chance of a 90. Then if he does play, obviously gets a 91. Whether they go unbeaten in 6, that would obviously get him to his 92. And I think that is a great potential to have on any card. I think he is a little bit expensive for his card, especially with the amount of centre-backs we've got. But in terms of the solidness, we've got to go in the AS again for him. Very, very standard across the board. Then we have on to another FUT Fantasy in Trimmel, the 86 Union Berlin player. Again, nice stats throughout, to be honest. 87 pace. We've got a good amount of dribbling and passing for him. The defending physical looks nice, and he has the chance of upgrades again. These cards are always going to be a hard one to navigate right now because literally you could say, hey, he looks okay, but then he has a massive upgrade to an 87 and 88. They could give him +2s, +3s, and then you've got a completely different card. So I'm trying to go off what we can see right now. In terms of right back, he's pretty nice. AS, I'd say, is more where I'd put him, personally, in comparison to anybody else at this point. On to another cracking centre-back, and I cannot wait for another version of this guy. Tomori is outstanding. Great pace, defending physical, in games in there. He is just a wonderful centre-back that when or if he does get a team of the season, you know he's going to be absolutely cracked. Great links in the Serie A, AC Milan, and obviously English Nation as well, if you wanted to have them. But in terms of a centre-back, absolutely elite. He is 100% making the S tier for me. We then have Timber, the 88 rated centre-back. Again, very much like Vanderson, is an SBC of a pick, a CDM or centre-back, and I'm pretty sure now, I'm 99% sure, both of them can play centre-back, but obviously this version is more equipped for a centre-back, and I think it's standard. In terms of Eredivisie, very, very nice centre-back. He can link up with his brother, obviously the Ajax Timber as well, which is always a nice comparison, which obviously comes in as the next guy. So we do have Timber 89 now as, again, another cracking centre-back. Both of them very similar, with the final Timber has a lot more on that physicality side, but I think the Ajax Timber always has a great in-game. Don't know what it is about him, it just feels somewhat quicker, even with the pace being almost identical. But I do think both of them come in a very nice standard as an AS for me. We then have Tavernier as a FUT Centurion, the SBC, with obviously Kent as well. A great right back, 90 pace, defending a little bit on the lower side now, but I do think with Tavernier, he has a great in-game kind of potential. It's really nice to see with cards like this. In terms of what he can kind of give you, he has got the penalties, which is always perfect. If you haven't got a penalty taker, 9 times out of 10 you do, but always a nice little extra bonus, as well as the physicality side. He's very quick. He has the links to Kent if you wanted to put him on your team. You wanted to try maybe an English team. He's got that ability, and I think in terms of right back, it's very nice. He is kind of that standard, good but not quite S quality, but I think definitely got to be sitting in that AS again. Next up is Sule, the 88 Dortmund centre-back. Again, I feel like defending physicals are quite nice from him, but he's definitely lacking on that pace element / the kind of dribbling side of stuff. He's kind of, well, he was out from the very start, so he's kind of now getting to the point where you kind of need an upgrade from him. And some cards do. They go months, weeks, even half of the game without no upgrade, and eventually you get to a point where you think, he kind of just needs something now. We've got a lot of centre-backs, as we'll see, and get through, so I think for me, he's going to slightly now jump into that A, and without an upgrade soon, probably lower than that. Next up, we have John Stones, the 89 showdown winner for Man City. A solid centre-back, to be honest. Price-wise, I don't think was terrible, but coming at a point where there was far too many showdowns, and a lot of showdowns that just wasn't really it, and I feel like it lost that little bit of a touch. I like showdowns, but a week of them, it just personally isn't my favourite. I prefer the top end matches, try and pick some players that just don't get upgrades. So Stones is a nice one because we very rarely ever see an upgrade from Stones. So it's nice that we do get one just to add that extra special to the cards, to the roster. In terms of a centre-back, he's a pretty standard. He's always going into that AS. We then have Spinazzola, cracking SBC, and I hope that he is coming back and gonna get some more better cards, because this one is a great start to him. Solid pace, dribbling, passing, defending, physical, all coming up in a nice way, but we could do with an absolute monster card next. A FUT birthday could be perfect for him if they were to ever give it to him, or potentially something going forward. Again, very much like an Atal, I feel like a centre mid for him would actually be really good in a shapeshifter, but as a left back, the great pace, he's coming in standard with Nuno, Mendes, Davies, he's got the pace, and he's got obviously the defending physical to back it up. So I think it would be rude to not put him in the AS. We then have Spence. Not a bad card again, future star onto him, a bit of a nice upgrade from him. I do think with the future stars, I do like a lot of the upgrades. Some of them, they do lack a little bit of an actual upgrade to make them usable, but again, sometimes you've got to have them fodder players. And I do think he is a cheaper option in terms of the right wing back sort of style. He's got the pace, but I do think in terms of overall in-game, from when we've packed him, he's just not had that flair that I've seen from a lot of good right backs that we've used, from obviously Zanetti, Zambrotta, to obviously the Wan-Bissakas and the Taverniers. I think he's just under that, and if I was kind of putting him, I feel like just underneath in the A would probably be the spot that I'd go for. Chris Smalling, a cracking SBC, was again very much like Tavernier, did have Jones attached to him, and this guy is a monster in game. He just feels so much quicker than what the card actually states. With a shadow, you're looking at very, very nice pace, 92 pace, as well as that already incredible physical, the big upgrade on the defending. He is one of them cards that in game is a monster. Very, very good, and I'm always going into that S for him. Next up is 89 Skriniar, a brand new FUT fantasy, again with an amazing potential. If Inter can pull it out the bag for him, this guy could be like a 93, 94 rated card with a 90 for the first upgrade. So 94, I think they've got 4. They've got the win one match, 3 appearances, clean sheets, and avoid beaten. Yeah, so he could be a 93 as the max. At a minimum, we should hopefully see at least a 91. Whether he gets a 92, I don't know about the clean sheets. Be interesting to see how well they are doing with that. But this guy has got massive potential to go forward. And I think for me, he's always got to be in that S after carefully looking at him. 88 Thiago Silva. We're now waiting for the team of the season or something bigger. Probably a footies, I can imagine, because we've already had a flashback right at the start of the game. But I do think now, yes, the defensive style of him is cracking, but the pace is always going to be the slower side of him now. And with defenders that have got 85 and above pace on just a standard 87, unfortunately, the defending is not going to be able to outweigh him for now. We're going to have to go into that A, and we might see him drop more and more as we go on. Next up is Luke Shaw, 86 rated showdown. He technically does have an 87, but with the pace being an extra 1 on the 86, and if you have done the SBC showdown already, more than likely, you're probably going to keep this left back. He is becoming very standard now, nothing too incredible from him, but I do think he's still got somewhat of a spot in a Man U team. You do have Malacia as a future star, I want to say it is. Could be wrong, we'll see him in a little bit, but in terms of him, I feel like he is very standard. Sometimes a little bit more bulkier on the ball, obviously not necessarily the leanest player on the pitch, and he has had his moments as a centre-back, which, again, in terms of height, may not be the greatest, but I feel like the stockiness is almost covered up a little bit more when you are a centre-back because you have your fullbacks really doing the work for him. So I think at this point, I'd probably be looking more into the A, and definitely within the next couple of weeks, he'd be down in that B, pure fodder basis. Then we have Sergio Ramos. Very little to say about him other than an absolute GOAT of the game. A flashback during Team of the Year that was outstanding. Everything about him is unreal. Yes, we've got a big pace increase from the standard gold card, but in terms of in-game, defensive ability mixed with everything that you can get from him is S quality every time. And we do have, again, his rule breaker. I thought I got rid of individual cards, but clearly not. We're going to go with we'll put his rule breaker just down here. It's not fodder at all, but I mean, at this point, you definitely want to go for that beautiful, beautiful flashback. We then have Schlotterbeck. Not a bad card, to be honest. When you look at him once he's had his full upgrade, in terms of a centre-back, if you're starting out, not terrible, but definitely now we're starting to lose the kind of flow with him. Very much like Sule, even though he's got a bit more of that pace side of stuff, physicality could do with a little bit more of an upgrade. The defending's pretty perfect, to be honest. We don't see too much more, as obviously that then comes during the later stages of the game. But I do think in-game, he's just not quite on that level anymore. We then have Davinson Sanchez, which again, to be honest, is very, very similar. In terms of the card when he came out, nice card, was a little bit priced, but you can imagine, Prem centre-back, finally had an 80 pace, great defending physical. It was a must. Now we're coming into the point where he wouldn't even make a second or third lineup at this point. So he's going to have to go in the A to start with. We then have Saliba, again, cracking little player right here. 89 rated, so like Skriniar, has the ability to become a 93. And if Arsenal do pull it out the bag, that could be a card and a half. To start with, he looks very top end. 85 pace to start with, the 90 defending, the 88 physical. Like I said, we are going to see a lot of cards with pretty much these stats, but the thing with the foot fantasies are they have got the ability to upgrade. So that is the big bonus for them, that we should, especially with Saliba, see at least a 91 at the minimum. Whether then they get the clean sheets will be an interesting one, which I do think they should do, but it is always a hard one to predict. They could go 6 games where they just concede 1 a game. They could go 5 games and concede 1 a game and then get 1 clean sheet. Unfortunately, that is how it rolls. But Saliba is 100% in that S with the big boys. 89 Rudiger. With this card, I kind of thought, you know what, he is slightly now out of the news. I feel like to start with, the new move to Real Madrid, the one to watch, was a very solid card linked up with Militao. Starting to slowly come out of it. I do think he's still very top meta, but I would like to now see an upgrade to get him back into that shout. He is obviously still a very good centre-back, and I have seen very mixed opinions about him. Whenever I've personally used him from his 87 to his 89 one to watch, I personally like him still. Very solid on the defensive tackle. Physicality's not a problem. Great pace. Passing's a standard. he is just an overall very good centre-back. So there'd be no other way than to put him in the S for me, and I think he's definitely in deserve of that. 89 Romero. We have the World Cup Romero 89. Unfortunately, I didn't change the dynamic, which is a bit of a shame. Obviously, a lot of the, well, I think all of the Argentinian specials throughout the World Cup got their new dynamic image with the World Cup. Class touch from EA, really like that. And very standard. Came out during the Path to Glories. Got the biggest upgrade you could possibly get. Good pace on him. Defending physical's nice. I do think he's very standard in the field and will join the rest of the ASs. We then have big old Andy as the 89 Winter Wildcard. Again, like a lot of left backs, to be honest. Very standard. Just got the pace increased to 90. Not necessarily the top compared to Davies, Nuno, but most definitely still puts in the shift. The big thing he has is he has a very good, well-balanced dribbling, passing, defending and physical. And definitely if we did see a bigger upgrade from him into the 90s, you're definitely going to look as one of the better left-backs in the Prem now. Especially with Cancelo gone, it was always the argument between them two. And I think there wasn't really too much in it with them. Yes, once they get to the top level, you may prefer one or the other, and chemistry was always going to be involved. But Andy definitely comes in as a standard good left back at this point. Gerard Pique, 89 rated, 83 pace, 88 defending. This card came out literally as one of the first promos, and yet you can see the difference between somebody... Saliba's quite a hard one to compare to, but say we look at John Stones, 2 defending less, same physical, pace-wise was 84, I want to say 84 or 85, so 2 less. Passing I can't see, unfortunately. Dribbling is where he really falls down. But in terms of everything, in terms of a defensive attribute, it's the same. It's literally the same. And it's crazy that we've still got these cards coming out at the same rating, at the same price, at the same actual in-games. It is nuts. Obviously, you do have your top ones which come out a little bit better. But when it comes to the AS, the A category, there's very, very similar centre-backs from the start of the game all the way up until literally last week. So I can't put him anywhere other than the AS. We then have Montiel, the 85 World Cup, Road to World Cup. Again, you're going to tell me in the comments which one it is. But 85 rated, good pace, defending physical is pretty standard. Honestly, he's kind of one that's just now predominantly rolling as fodder for me. He will sit underneath this fodder kind of window. He has got the good pace, but in terms of an 85, he's just not going to match up to the others. We then have Molina as a showdown winner again, 88 rated, Atletico Madrid, Argentinian links, as well as the great pace. Defending physical taking a nice upgrade here, as well as having a bit of dribbling and physical. So I do think he is obviously a solid option if you knew he was getting an upgrade or if you took that gamble. To start with, I feel like very basic. Now he's got the +1s or +2s on the board. Definitely comes in as a standard right back for the culture. Miranda as a left back, brand new, road to the final, I believe. And in terms of the stats, very standard. Very, very standard. We're going to try and go through a few of these lower rated cards. He's just going to go straight into that A for me. And then we move on to the next. Ferland Mendy. What can you say about Ferland Mendy? An incredible card. From his gold all the way up to this winter wild card to maybe a footies more than likely. Whether we're going to get one in the meantime between them, that would always be interesting. But Ferland is always in that S category. There is no question about it. We then have Martinez as the left back 86. I believe he can be a centre-back. I'm pretty sure he can, but I'm actually not too sure with this card anymore. I had it normally just locked up in the back of my mind. We've actually got him in the team, or got him in the club anyway, for the Man U past and present. But in terms of a left-back, he's now becoming standard. He is going to be designed more for a centre-back anyway. I think the 86 was always nice for the Phenoms, but he is starting to now really come into that average sort of category, in my opinion. Marquinhos World Cup, 90 rated. I'm ashamed with Marquinhos because I think he definitely now needs a bigger upgrade. The pace element of him, the defending's fantastic. Defending is never a problem with this card, but I do think he's slowly becoming just out of touch with everything. We already have now the Ramoses, Smallings, Rudigers, Salibas, then obviously the Team of the Year's got to get involved. Whereas I think Marquinhos, his main thrive was having a Team of the Year as well. That was definitely the best part about Marquinhos. Now we're kind of waiting for the Team of the Season with him. I do think he's fallen into the very standard sort of centre-back kind of style. We then have World Cup Heroes Marquez. This guy kind of has a double-edged sword from him because I do think he's very bog standard. But then there's games where I play people and honestly, you cannot put a foot wrong with him. He's strong, he's got defensive abilities coming out of his ears. Pace-wise isn't necessarily going to stand you up pace for pace, but most definitely, you go a one-on-one strength battle with him, he is brilliant at it. In terms of where I'm going to put him, I don't think he really compares too much with the S at all. The AS, I feel like if we asked like a month or two ago, we may have been okay to put him in the AS. But I do think now we're starting to drop down that little bit more. Then we have got Malacia, the 89 rated left back. And like I say, the difference between him and Shaw, we've got the incredible pace on him. Defending physical, maybe a little bit less, which is a standard for him. But that's where personally I think Shaw is the better centre-back out of the two, and Malacia definitely comes in as the better left-back. Up and down the wing if you really wanted to. He's a standard nice left-back, and he's going to start the new row off in the AS. Well, we might as well put him at the top anyway. Lucio, unreal. Definitely top 3 centre-backs. I think Virgil, Lucio, Maldini. There's always throws now for a Saliba, for obviously a Vidic Team of the Year. Even Nesta coming into the fold as well. But Lucio has got to be in top 3. S is the easiest S I've ever given anybody. Vasquez Centurions. Not a bad card. I do think winger definitely suits him a little bit more. But in terms of a right back, you're getting pretty much what you pay for him. Good pace, defending physical could always do with some work. I do think he's very, very standard in that A category. If we kind of think of who else is in there, the Vanderson, good pace, defending physical is a little bit better to be fair to him. But then we look at someone like Spence, very similar defending physical. Obviously the dribbling's coming in there as well. But the main thing is Vasquez has a little bit more shooting than most. A nice centre-back in Laporte, the obvious World Cup stories. He got a decent upgrade from, what, an 86 or 87, I want to say. I can't remember now. Good pace increase, defending physicals coming in at the top end. Very standard centre-back amongst the AS. And that is personally always where he's going to go if we can fit him in nicely. And again, from one centre-back to another, Koyunde, 86 pace, 87 defending, 82 physical. As we can see, we literally go across this list and it is mind-boggling when I've looked at all of these centre-backs, even played with pretty much like 70% of them at the minimum, how very similar they are. And it all goes down to A, who you pack untradeable, because I do think a lot of people are going for untradeable teams, and also, can you afford any of these S categories? Koyunde, another one that definitely will sit in that AS. We then go to the big man at Chelsea in Koulibaly, the Senegalese centre-back with a great transfer for him. An incredible centre-back. This guy has got it all down to a T. We've already got the 85 pace, the 92 defending, 90 physical, as well as a good amount of dribbling, which is mainly composure. Obviously, the reactions coming in nicely, and a bit of passing. This guy's got a monster card coming if he can get into any of the top-end sort of later promos like the footies, the foot birthdays not next week, the week after. He could have a monster card as a 93, 94. Whether he would really ever get into the team of the season, it is what it is. But in terms of a centre-back now, he's got great potential for another upgrade, but is an S category for me. And surprisingly, of course, we have got obviously another version of him below, which again, like Ramos, we'll put into that fodder just to keep him out of the way, as obviously we'll just tuck him in there. We won't even see him. Don't know why he's there. We then have Konate as a road to the knockout. Very standard again, good pace, defending physical. It's just an easy one for a lot of these. They predominantly all now go into the AS because literally they are all the same half the time. Kolasinac, again, standard, 84, 85, great physicals on him. For some reason, 93 physical. Don't know what it's about. He has gone from a left back into a centre back as well, but I don't think has either got the boost yet or didn't get the boost between Marseille and I want to say PSG. I'm pretty sure it was PSG, but in general, not a bad centre-back. He's going to give you a very different option in terms of kind of what he brings to the table. Has a bit more dribbling than most centre-backs, and obviously the physicality is a very interesting one. It does give him a nice open route for a shadow, because then you've already got the 93 physical. So I think in terms of a centre-back, it's probably the perfect chemistry style setup, but I do think he's very standard in what he kind of gives us. I think it's Kohler, I call him Kohler, could be totally wrong on butchering his name. Wouldn't be the first time. I've probably picked on about 15 players already. In terms of this guy, to start with from the World Cups, very nice centre-back. Again, very much like a Thiago Silva wherever he's gone. I think he's down here. There he is. Great defending. The physicals on him were really nice, but it was the pace that was really holding him back. I think to start with, when people didn't have mega teams, you could get away with it. Very good centre-back, and obviously always made the challenges. Now, I'm personally thinking he's starting to lose past his prime. We then have Klosterman from the Winter Wildcards. Not a bad little price card now. In terms of a Bundesliga team, he definitely could get into it still hands down, especially when the price necessarily isn't that expensive. Great pace on him, defending physicals have had a nice increase. In general, not a bad centre-back, and will always go into that AS at this point. We then have Kjaer as an AC Milan centre-back. I feel like he's starting to lose past it as well. Good defending on him. Physicals could do with a bit of work, but unfortunately we are going to have to go for that shadow as well, which means they don't get upgraded, and he's going to have to kind of sit in more of the A category for me. Ledley King, Foot Heroes. This is a nice card, and definitely with his counterpart Cordoba, some nice upgrades that could happen. Obviously following Spurs, 88 rated with the potential of an 89 and a 90 if they do avoid defeats in the next 6 from the 17th of March. Whether they do that, very, very unlikely, but could get a win. That more than likely should definitely happen. Would turn him into an 89, which is perfect. Give him a little bit more on that physical side of him, and obviously the pace. Whether I think he's an S, personally for me, I just can't say S for him, because I do think the category that we've got, he's close, but he's not quite there. So I think for me, he's a very top-end AS, but I think AS is the potential. Maybe if he got the double upgrade, we could reconsider, because that could be +2, 3 or 4s, but it would be interesting to see what them upgrades actually will go to. Then we have Kimpembe Foot Centurions, an easy card, mainly because it's not necessarily the stats on him. It is in-game all day with him. We know full well from his gold card last year with all of the special cards. This year the gold card came in the same. Very, very nice in-game. We've already got the physicality side of him, as well as then the shadow to take him up to 91 pace, as well as 90 plus defending. It's a solid card. You can never argue with Kimpembe. He's like a few of the other centre-backs that in-game is just better than what the stats predict. So I think for me, he's always in the S. Kim Min-Jae up next. Standard again. Good pace, defending physical. Does have a little bit of dribbling, but nothing too crazy. But does lack a little bit now on that passing, which is where something definitely needs to be upgraded. But in terms of a centre-back, when I look at the kind of difference we've got between the ASs, he just has to stay in there. There's very little wrong with him other than he's just outgrowing the rating at some point. So maybe we'll see a bigger upgrade going into the next half of FIFA. We then have Kenny as another SBC right back. In terms of the stats, it's pretty standard. I feel like he's one of them cards that in-game wasn't necessarily as good as the card suggests. The pace is definitely nice for him, but I do think the defensive side of him was just a little bit lacking at times. Yes, it can be during certain matches. You might play 5 games, and the 5 games you played horrendous. But in terms of what I kind of got the feeling from him, he just really didn't have that wow defending factor. We've used a gold Walker and he's absolutely trounced it. We've then seen from Zambrotta, we've seen Hakimi has been incredible from his gold card all the way up to his team of the year, whereas I think Kenny, he was almost put into that position, and I just don't personally think he fits it. So I'm going to go for the A with this one. I do think he's a lower standing A, but I do know a few people might actually like the card. Next up is the Future Star Kalulu. Very, very close in S for me. I do think this card has got such a nice upgrade, but I just need that extra little bit. In terms of the defending side of it, very good. The pace is nice. I don't know what it is other than he just doesn't stand out compared to the top end ones. If we're looking at him compared to, would I prefer Kalulu over Tomori, Virgil, Smalling, Ramos, Skriniar, I would pick all of them over him. So with that in mind, I just personally can't put him in that S. I think a very, very top end AS, but most definitely close to that S for me. Then we have Jordi Alba as the Foot Centurions. In terms of Alba, is now kind of like a love-hate relationship with me personally. I do like the card, and I do think he's got some play as a left back, But I just think at this point, he's kind of done now. In terms of the defending, the physical, especially at this point in the game, it's just not enough. He's got a bit of pace. In terms of the left backs we've got, he just isn't up to scratch in my opinion. I do think now, he's now coming in that A and he's so close to going even further down. Phil Jones, so the counterpart to Smalling, you do get Phil Jones, or did get Phil Jones, from completing part of the SBC with Smalling. And I do think in terms of the card, it's a standard card. It's a nice little extra bonus. I like when they did it between the Kent and Tavernier. Unfortunately, Kent did get the unlucky draw of it, of not getting the big upgrade, and same with Jones to some extent, but I do think Smalling, in terms of a flashback, is the more desired. Jones is a nice past and present Man U player, and a standard centre-back if you wanted to pay 10 to 20k for him, but he's not going to shape up compared to a lot of these centre-backs. He's very, very close to being fodder. At the minute, we're just going to keep him in the A until we boot him out of the club. We then have Jesus Navas. Very similar to a lot of these right back and left backs that have been out for a while. We are starting to see a random pattern of they just don't have the extra stats. They've always had good pace, and that is a standard with a lot of fullbacks. They tend to have 86, 87 plus pace from the absolute base, but then they don't have the physical. They either then don't have the passing, the defending isn't necessarily the top end, and when we start getting the bigger upgrades from the Nuno Mendeses, obviously then the Taverniers, then we go to Spinazzola, they just can't compete. So I think for me, he again is very, very close to getting booted into the B category, but for now, we'll keep him in the A. Team of the Year Hernandez. I thought the Team of the Years were gone somewhere, but again, very, very top end. Most, or if not all of the Team of the Year would get into most people's teams. Maybe the midfield is up for question, but the defensive element of everybody, Theo, Militao, Virgil, Hakimi, they are all outstanding in their positions. I only think really that it's centre-back where you have a very other viable option. In terms of left back, you're looking at Capdevia, who is incredible. Like that's a brand new card today, or Friday. But in terms of what Theo can bring, the pace element is outstanding, and there is no other place other than S for him, 100%. We then have a player, I don't know how to pronounce his name properly, Henriques or Henry. Yeah, you can see him. Plays for Leipzig. Nearly got that wrong as well. But again, a showdown card that didn't get the showdown upgrade. 90 pace, 85, 83. Standard, good dribbling. Passing wise is not bad. A standard card. I think if he did manage to get the bigger upgrade into the 89, we could have been looking at a solid right back option. But I think now, very standard. It's going to go into the AS with everybody else. Team of the Year Hakimi, a beautiful 94. This guy is just crackers. Like we said with Theo, there's very few options, and I think especially at right back, there is far fewer options compared to what Theo, like I say with Theo, Capdevia is a great shout. Ferland Mendy will give you the option as well. In terms of right backs, as you can see, Walker is a great shout, but I definitely prefer Hakimi 100% of the time. Even if we look at the bottom side of it, Wan-Bissaka's here. There is a few more underneath the pile. But in terms of Hakimi, he is the best of the best. He is number one in what you want from that Team of the Year. Gravado, future star. Centre-back that is outstanding. This guy is a world beater centre-back and hopefully does get a nice upgrade as we go through with the game. Well, if you've ever watched the tier list from the last one, you know I screwed his name up a little bit, and it is what it is. I do know how to say it, but in terms of a centre-back, this guy is absolutely elite. Great pace, defending, physical, he's got the whole package, and to be honest, not that expensive as well. Definitely a well-earned S category for me. We then go back to the Premier League for, I believe it's Gui? I just don't, yeah. Their names are not my forte, as you would know. But the centre-back from Crystal Palace, a lovely future star, pretty standard going forward. We have used him a handful of times. We managed to pack him alongside Spence. I believe we got them in, literally separate packs together. And in general, he just didn't have the composure on the game. In terms of his actual defensive ability, there was times where I just felt like he just let the team down a little bit. The pace side of it was nice, but this was a couple weeks ago now, and in terms of what we've got since then, unfortunately is going to have to start falling down into the bottom of this A category for me. We then have Frimpong as the 86 right back. Again, with this card, it came from the Phenoms, forgetting what they were called there, but in terms of everything, We've got solid pace, which we all know with Frimpong, very, very quick on the ball. And if you like just a right wing back that can get up and down, he can definitely do that option. We've got dribbling, which is always nice. He has obviously got the 96 pace, which allows us to either go for an anchor or something like a sentinel, because we definitely need more defensive and physical attributes. If it wasn't necessarily for his absolutely absurd amount of pace, I would definitely be looking into that A, maybe even B at this point, but purely for the fact that you can go for such a good chem style to get that defensive physical up, he is an AS at this moment in time. Then we swap Konate out for Fofana as a road to the final centre-back with a great base on him. Whether Chelsea get any further is completely under the question, but in terms of what we get now, a solid centre-back, very similar to everybody else, solid pace, defending, physical, doesn't necessarily have much passing, and dribbling wise is very standard. So I think for me, he can't go any more than an AS, but he's definitely got the potential to go up. Finally, we get back to the final team of the year in the defensive lineup, and Militao is definitely not talked about enough. I do think this guy has still got an incredible amount of stats. There was always arguments of how did he get team of the year, but whoever cares now. In terms of this card, we've got the 90 pace, which is incredible on the base, 95 and 92 defending physical, good dribbling, again could do with a bit of an upgrade. That is where footies will really come in handy to really round the centre backs. You'll have incredible passing, you'll have incredible dribbling, as well as the 90 plus pace, the 90 plus defending. It is just an absolute onslaught. But for Militao, you can't disrespect him other than that S category. We then go on to Dumfries as a team of the tournament, I want to say that card was. Again, there's so many different cards, it's ridiculous during the World Cup. Standard again, I feel like he's very close to coming down into this A, but I do think in-game he's actually very viable as an option. In terms of Serie A, he's got that ability, as well as then having a bit of pace, which you can go with a shadow. We have incredible amounts of physical, which is weird because I swear, Kolasinac, he had 93 physical as well. Very strange, it's just a random number that you can get into, but with the shadow, you're looking at a nice right back. You can't disagree, and it's definitely worth at least an AS. Then we have 88 Dalot. Now, I'm going to do something a bit controversial with him in a minute, but in terms of a right back, if you've ever used him, for the budget that he is, for what he produces, he is a wonderful option. He has obviously the links in the Prem, the Portuguese, the pace is nice, the physicals are nice, dribbling and passing are quite high, as well as some defending as well. He is a wonderful right back, and he is relatively cheap. I think he's one of the ones that does put himself with Walker, not necessarily Hakimi. I would definitely 100% always prefer Hakimi, but there is a 6 rating difference between them two. But I do think in terms of what I've seen from him, he's got to be in that S category as a right back. Now in inform, chucking a few informs in here as well. I don't know if this is the only one actually. It is the only one we've covered so far. I really didn't know what an upgrade this guy had. 90 pace, 84, 86 defending physicals, 83 defending, 80 passing. A solid right back. Genuinely. From Napoli, I want to say that one is. It could be someone different. I'm pretty sure that one's Napoli. But honestly, incredible. He's got such good stats throughout, which is brilliant from an inform. And I don't think he's had many special cards throughout. So an 88 rated, very cheap. Definitely coming in as at least an AS in my opinion. We then have our man Dani Alves, 88 rated as standard right back. Again with him the only problem was always he doesn't have a legal club, which is just meaning you need Brazilian links or somebody like the Ronaldo card. I think it's the one with the nations on rather than just actually a team. But in terms of Dani Alves, he's going to give you a standard performance. I think slowly now coming out of the meta circle, but I still think in terms of what we've got right back wise, he could definitely give it with a lot of the higher end cards, but not top cards. Cuadrado, very similar. We just seem to have a lot of right backs at the minute. With Cuadrado, obviously his starting card is a right mid, but he's always going to be a right back in my eyes. In terms of right mid, I just don't think he has that attack in play. You go with a shadow or a sentinel on this guy as well. Already got the pace on there. Dribbling's nice and high because he is a right mid. But I do think he is a standard, solid right back that you can get in the game. Cordoba. Hero Cordoba looks nutty. Great pace on him, great price, 91, 81 on the defending physical, has the potential of a 90 rated. And again, in terms of this card, I do think a little bit of hype on him because he is brand new, but the upgradable factor for him could really put him into that top end centre-back. Should hopefully get one upgrade, so we will see after the 17th of March when that does happen, but most definitely gotta be in the S category for defenders. Carvajal, it just seems like we're collecting right backs at this point. They all have the letters beginning with A to D by the looks of it, because we have got five right backs in a row. There's another two here. I don't know anybody more on this row. And then we have a few more up here, but standard as you like, we can see them all. They all are very, very standard in what they have. Bit of pace, good defending physical, bit of dribbling, and then a bit of passing. They're all identical. Capdevila, the brand new hero for him that I definitely want to get because this guy looks a machine. Should hopefully get the 90. Don't think he'll get the 91 if I'm being completely honest with you. But just an upgrade from his World Cup. The World Cup's an S in itself, so we most definitely need to go here for him. And for some reason, we have the World Cup as well. We knew that we wanted to show you this one, and we're not going to disrespect him by putting him in B. He's going to put into his spot, definitely with that S as well. We then have Cancelo as the 91 left back. That again is absolutely brilliant. I do think Cancelo is such a good left back, and it is such a shame we have lost him to the Bundesliga because it just doesn't hit the same. Bundesliga cards, they're okay and most definitely get better towards the team of the season, but at this point, I very rarely see them unless they're in an objective, and Cancelo moving to Bayern, even though we haven't seen an upgrade yet, could see a few more, which would still be a very good card. The fact that we don't need the links right next to each other, and you can obviously go and get a Mane from the flashback, I want to say he is, and still put up a great shout with Cancelo. But he is an S left back for me, one of the better ones out of the bunch, and hopefully we'll get more upgraded in the future. We then have Bremer, who's got to try and fit himself into this AS because standard centre back again was a very nice team of the year honourable, I must admit. In terms of what the pricing from him is a nice, cheap and affordable one. Isn't necessarily in the top S category, but I don't think he'd drop down below, obviously, the AS for me. So we're going to try and just pile him on here at the end, and hopefully we don't fill up the screen before then. Then we have Bonucci. Unfortunately for me, it's a very quick and simple one with him. Nice card to start with. Now, he's becoming more fodder-based. He's got to be. There's very little about him that really anybody would be using at this part of the game. We then look at Bailey or Bailly. Again, not a bad SBC. Coming in not necessarily even a little bit expensive, just a bit more expensive than what you'd want because we was having the daily winter wildcard SBCs. But I think in terms of a centre-back, very nice in Ligue 1, good pace, defending and physical, a very top end, a very standard, nice, solid centre-back. And you think I'm pronouncing that name? You got another thing coming. Another centre-back from the future stars for Chelsea. Pace, standard, defending, physical. You might as well just start lining them up in this AS because that is a standard card that you're looking at. In terms of what we've got of an upgrade, it's not terrible. I feel like you could always argue that there is a lot better and maybe some of them could drop down into the A category. But I do think no matter who you picked out of this group, they all give you roughly the same sort of attributes. They give you that same sort of play in game. We then get down to Azpilicueta, and to be honest, this is probably the only card out of the bunch that actually, in-game, I wasn't impressed. Defending physical is nice. You look at the card's balance stats, throughout are good. But in terms of in-game, turn like a truck, just didn't do it for me. Again, it could always be opinion to another. I feel like there is definitely people that would say he deserves to be in that AS. Judging from the stats and throughout, they are very similar to a lot of players. But in terms of my experience in-game with him, I just wasn't having it personally. So he is downgraded into the A. We then have Atal, an incredible right back. Has the potential of an upgrade into a road to the final. Obviously, if Nice do go through in the conference, we could see a bigger version of Atal, which would be very, very nice. Again, let me know down below if you are watching still and know if they are going to go through, because this card could have a potential, and most definitely, I think at the moment, I could always argue that Atal is definitely always S category worthy. For the moment, we're going to keep him in the AS, as I do think he definitely needs that one step upgrade compared to the other right backs that we have put in here. But with the chance of an upgrade, you've got yourself a nice card coming. We then have Orejo. incredible. Very, very little needs to be said about this card. 90-90 on the defender and physical, 86 pace, a lovely future star. Coming in with a bit of an expense, but absolutely deserved because this centre-back is 100% the S category. We then have only a few left. We've got Angelino as a foot fantasy. Again, not a bad card with a future upgrade potential of a +4, taking him into that 91, which would be incredible. Whether it's going to be done with Hoffenheim, I want to say. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. In terms of an upgrade, you'd expect at least maybe a +2 at the minimum. I think the clean sheet / goals and assists is very hard to actually kind of predict, especially when I personally don't know. I don't watch them, so I don't know how many clean sheets they keep. Obviously, whether they're attackers, I don't know how many they score. But in terms of a left back, then we have Amavi as the winter wild card, starting to come down to a lot of the last few players here. Very, very standard with him, and I think in general comes in probably at the same level as every other right back at this point, as we see them. Good pace, physical, defending, dribbling. It is literally as it goes here. We then have Trent Alexander-Arnold. And to be honest, I do think a lot of people give this guy a massive, massive amount of kind of justice in the game. I just don't see it. In terms of right backs, I just can't see where he is any different to anybody else. If I'm looking at the top end right backs, we're looking at Team of the Year Hakimi. We're seeing the not the foot fantasy, the Phenoms Hakimi. I personally would prefer them too. We then see obviously Dalot. I personally prefer him. If we then see Walker, again, standard. When we come into Dumfries, Di Lorenzo, Dani Alves, I'd then potentially look at thinking he is better than some of them. Even a Tal at some point. I would prefer it. So unless people are playing him in a specific way, I personally don't see the massive hype around him. And for that, he's got to be in the AS for me. Then we have Alex Telles. Again, pretty standard when it comes to a left back. I think for me, he's okay, but he most definitely is not in the eye at the moment. In terms of La Liga left backs or just left backs in general, I'd go A just purely for the fact that I do think you've got a little bit of play at the minute, but most definitely there is a very, very small amount that says that card will work for you anymore. We then have Alaba, a road to the final with a great shout for more upgrades. And I do think this is exactly what this centre-back needed. The last one we got was that player pick between the rule breakers. And it was definitely coming to a point where you needed somebody better. I don't think quite S category yet. If he did manage to get a few upgrades throughout the Champions League, then definitely worth a shout. But at the moment, I think AS is the shout. Then we see Carvalho. Again, not a bad World Cup hero, and I think a little bit before his time, he would definitely have been a nice card. But I do think very much like the Cola, again, sorry if I mispronounced that, he is starting to now become out of focus in my eyes and is definitely looking into more of the A category. And then finally we finish off with Acuna, a great World Cup, it was a World Cup showdown that managed to get the win, and obviously the dynamics changed to obviously him holding a World Cup, and in general, a solid left back. He's quite comfortable to stay where he's at, and that is going to be the tier for today. Hopefully you did enjoy, and hopefully you can see everybody here. We will actually try and move my camera down here, and there is the list for everybody. Let me know down below if you agree, disagree, anybody else that you would prefer in a different category. Bar from that though, make sure you like and subscribe and spread it with everybody, and I'll catch you all for the next one. Peace.